Right. Oh, I think.
Oh, Kevin can't hear you, mate.
My system went a bit weird.
Oh,
All right.
there you go.
All right, people. So today I'm joined by Daniel Everitt-Lock, and we're going to be talking about his feature documentary debut with Our Planet, The People, My Blood. Daniel, welcome to the podcast. How's everything going?
Yeah, good, man. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all, man. No worries at all. So you've been, working in the industry for a while now, right? Cinematography, you've directed a lot of shorts and things such as that. So kind of what got you interested in all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a cinematographer professionally for the last 14 years. Was working out in Canada for the last kind of 10 years, and then just come back to London. So, yeah, working back here now as well. But yeah, I've been directing a number of things, and then this film actually was something that really interested me from a number of years ago. There was I saw a short doc by a guy called Morgan Knibb about it was called What a Nuclear Weapons Explosion Feels Like. And it was all of these atomic veterans talking about their experience of the bomb. And
Mm,
all of them said the same thing about this moment where the bomb goes off and you have this huge flash of incredibly bright light. And they're all told to stand with their hands in front of their eyes, with their closed eyes. And they all talk about how the flash is so bright that they can see all the x-ray of their bones and the people in front of them through their closed eyes. And that just kind of stuck with me as this like crazy visual um, that kind of got me interested from the very beginning, really.
right. Okay. So you saw that. And what was the first thinking? Let me make a documentary, let me do a short. Like what were you kind of envisioning?
Yeah, it was from watching that doc, it kind of it hit me in a way that was like, this is insane. How have I never kind of heard about this? So I talked to like family and friends about it, and they didn't really know anything about it either. And I was kind of like, this is insane because it's such a crazy um, part of history and like this thing. So it was kind of weird to me that no one really knew about it. And from that point, it struck me that this would make a really good documentary. So then fast forward like 6 years after that, after I shot most of my career has been like scripted. So I hadn't really done too much documentary, so I hadn't really felt kind of confident enough to kind of approach a full documentary subject, not certainly not like a feature. And then I shot a feature documentary out in Venice for a number of months and worked with Amazon on a couple of documentary series. And I kind of realized that, okay, I think I got the experience enough now to kind of pull off my own documentary as a director. So.
Right. Okay. Like what were the big differences from narrative to documentary shooting for you?
Uh, Planning. I love the idea of having a script and being able to just walk on and know exactly right. We need to get this, 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 this. It's great. That's fantastic. I love that about scripted and being able to have control of situations and stuff and being able to manipulate things to put the story across that you want is
Yeah.
that's the art form is great. With documentary, obviously the way of doing that is entirely different. And particularly with this one, we went into this obviously with a scripted idea of what we were trying to achieve. But as you learn more and more and more, you things change. And particularly with this one, after meeting our main character, Alan Owen, everything kind of changed, and we changed the whole approach of the documentary, and instead of just being about these atomic veterans, it became this global view of all of these nuclear impacted communities. And uh, that kind of thing is obviously, that's not the kind of thing you do on a scripted show. So
Mm.
yeah.
Right. So the initial idea was just to focus on UK veterans.
Yeah, really. So we actually started, 3 years ago started, we I went and filmed with 5 different British veterans in the UK, and Alan. And through meeting Alan, he introduced me to. So the intention was just to talk about the veterans, and we were going to use that as a pitch and like put that out and try and get some development money in and do that kind
Mm.
of that kind of way. But what ended up happening was we met Alan, who runs this organization called Lab Rats, and he created Lab Rats. So his father was an atomic veteran, and
Yeah.
he suffered all these incredible health issues. He lost his brother, his sisters had problems, his dad. You know, everything is insane. And he started Lab Rats as a way of connecting all of these different global communities that were all trying to achieve the same thing. They're all trying to achieve recognition and compensation. And he was seeing that they were all after the same thing, but not really communicating with each other. So not really making as much impact as they could if they were all working together. So that was the ethos
Mm.
of Lab Rats. And then we saw that, and he taught us all about these different communities and he introduced us to all these different communities that had been affected. And it was like, this is crazy. So we um, took away from just the idea of just it being about British atomic veterans, and we wanted to take this very unique view as a global view, which had never been done before. So we were kind of like, well, this is a no-brainer. We got to change it up.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, it is definitely one of the issues in the third sector, right? You have loads of different charities all looking for the same thing, but all working kind of against each other. And so if you can unify that, create one voice, it's a
Mm,
lot more helpful. And I think when you put it together like this in a documentary, it becomes more powerful because, as you say, it becomes a global thing, right? So it's not
mm,
just something happening on essentially your doorstep. You can see the ramifications and the ripples across the world.
yeah, I think that was the thing, is all of these communities had the same issue, which was they
Yeah.
were all being given the same response, which was it was their responsibility to prove. It was the burden of proof was put onto the victims, which is not a typical way of dealing with situations like this from a legal standpoint. But this is how they were treated, in a way that it's like, well, if you need compensation for these cancers, you've got to prove that that exposure was responsible for that cancer. And how can you
Mm.
do that, particularly when these things are from decades ago? So it becomes this like very difficult situation. So our idea was that if you show this from a global perspective and you see all of these millions of different people in these communities that have been affected by the same situations and are having the same effects, the result is quite clear and the proof is in itself. It's kind of like they're all having the same issue. It's a very clear correlation that this is the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, it's often the case when it comes to compensation, right? Or
yeah.
assigning, responsibility for something. Like everything.
Mm.
We want to believe that we live in this fair democracy where everyone's accountable for their actions, but it's just not like we've seen it just across the board with so many different things. So
Mm.
it's not surprising that this is what happens. But when you decide to, on a more global scale, what does that then open up on your end, on like filmmaking and production wise? Like, what added things you now have to take into consideration?
Yeah. Um, I mean, a hell of a lot, really. I mean, so when we took, at the time I was living in Toronto in Canada, but I'm originally from the UK, from
Mm.
Worcester. in the UK. So coming back to the UK, I was doing quite a lot anyway, and working between Canada and the UK. So I mean, coming back and doing a story base that was in the UK, easy enough. When we then adapted and pivoted into a thing that is now a global look, it was like, okay, well, this is obviously now a task that's much bigger, like logistically and financially and stuff, kind of thing. The difficult thing was that we actually didn't get any of the development funding we were after, or any of the public funds that we were
Oh,
after, just because of a huge slump in the public like funding sector as it
yeah.
is at the moment. And then development and stuff, they just weren't. It was too much of a political documentary. There was too many things coming up, so we ended up basically bootstrapping the whole thing. And between friends, family, and myself, we financed this thing, and everyone who's worked on this, 95% of people that have worked on this have done it as a deferral or worked for free because they believe in the issue and what we're doing with this film. Um, that obviously takes a lot of convincing and a lot of like work to do that, but yeah, it was yeah, it all kind of it's all come together. I mean, in the last 3 years, over 3 years, we traveled over 150,000 kilometers, on a bootstrap budget, just staying in very cheap Airbnbs and cars and all sorts of mad stuff with just really myself and Rodrigo, who is my business partner, to shoot it. And then after that, post and everything has been quite a thing to tackle on something that's such a big story.
Mm. Yeah, I can imagine. Like, what? Because dealing with something like this, right? The conversations that you have to have, right? The amount of people that you've had to speak with, and as we see at the end, a good few of those people have unfortunately passed away. What
Mm.
kind of weight is that? And did you kind of anticipate that going in?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We had to approach this in a very delicate way, obviously, because there's so much damage and generational damage for these entire people and their entire communities, their whole lands and stuff and everything have like been destroyed, kind of
Mm,
thing. So it's something we had to really approach kind of very delicately. Um, for me, I know it was going to be pretty heavy going in. Um, I think you have to doing documentaries and stuff, you do have to learn to sit a little bit more objectively and take yourself out of the emotional roller coaster that it can be with these people. But it's not always that's obviously not always possible. And there was a couple of people where it was so hard hitting that it really hit me pretty bad as well. I know at the end of every day of these interviews and stuff, I go away just like minds racing and trying to just make sense of anything, really.
mm.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, no, I can imagine because, what can you really say to a lot of these people? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
there's nothing, right? It's just, when you're dealing with governments and everything like that, it's just, you have to just
maybe.
going, really.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's just the level of injustice. Really, that's um, the whole takeaway from the film is just the insane level of injustice from not just the UK but the US, China, Russia, all of all of these governments that just ultimately treat their citizens like I don't know, dispensable, completely dispensable, and
Mm,
just with no care really at all. And that's not to say that there aren't some good politicians and stuff, that kind of thing, absolutely. But I really believe that even if you look back at the past at like this subject, for instance, the level of injustice is absolutely crazy. It does very much reflect a lot of what's happening today and what's going on now. And unfortunately,
mm.
even very down to the very specific subject of nuclear weapons testing, it seems to be a thing that is now becoming more current again, which is just idiotic, really. I think you only need to watch the documentary to see that that's like probably the worst idea. Um, any of these guys could really think of at this point. And it's not people like these politicians that suffer. It's us. It's you and me. It's the public, and it's disgraceful, really. I think it is a thing. The whole kind of call to action from the documentary is that really the court of public opinion is the most powerful thing that we have, and the more people that understand the issues and make their voice known about the problems, the more chance we have of things like this not happening again.
Well, you hope, right? Because I
Right?
think a lot of
Right.
times with these things, it's kind of like people hear about it and they're like, oh, that's not good. But unless it directly affects them, it doesn't necessarily stay with them. You know what I mean? You
Well,
think
this is
about it in the moment and then it's kind of gone when you see the next thing, right?
yeah.
And that's one of the issues, one of the problems, because we see this thing, as I said, like, I mean, look at child abuse, right? Like the church denied for years anything was going on. And then you find all the records become clear, right? You find children's bodies in, the graveyards and children's homes. You've got like the forced adoption, which happened, this country happened a lot with the Aboriginal people, First Nation in Australia and in Canada and other places.
Particularly Canada, yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot of stories that came out recently. Yeah.
And all of these things were covered up, right?
Yeah.
You've got Shell and other oil companies, refining in Nigeria and other countries, and the amount of accidents and damage they've done to the environment, don't do a thing about it,
Yeah.
right?
I
So
know. Well,
it's
I mean that's the thing though. But it's one of those things that you can look at it that way and go like, okay, well, it's almost kind of hopeless because there is so much just injustice, really. That it's absolutely insane. But or you can do something about it and make your voice heard. And I think something that I try to do with this, and this is my attempt at that, really. And I mean, part of what we tried to do with this one was to make it a little bit more personal and make it a little bit more about this is affecting you. Is yes, there is the issue of fallout and how ultimately all this kind of radiation has ultimately touched every single person on the planet. There's no denying on that, and there's but the thing that we're kind of looking at as a more current thing that I try to put across with this is that right now your taxpayer money is being used to deny compensation for veterans that serve their country, most of them conscripted. So they didn't even volunteer. They didn't even choose to do this. They were conscripted. All these radiation and health issues, a lot of them have died, passed on a lot of these problems to multiple generations of their families. And the government is using our taxpayer money to deny them compensation. If that's really the case, just give them the compensation. I'd rather my money was used like that. Okay, this is your money. That's the call to action here. Is are you really happy about that? Because I'm not. It does affect you, even on like that kind of level as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing, right? There's so many issues that you can look at over the years, and even in recent years, so many things have come to light. And it's just like, yes, you can go, this is hopeless, or you can just, I think, re-intensify the right and just kind of think about, right, how do we go about this? How do we implement change? And I think, yes, looking at the fact that taxpayers are covering the costs is bonkers, right? So it is something that could help unify people against what this is, against this system of neglect. act, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, people, hopefully the idea with this is that they take away from this the, obviously the story and the subject itself, but at the very least, the underlying thing is that level of injustice that people are subject to on a global scale.
Mm.
It's like that you should be taken away as this thing of this is absolutely disgusting, and that kind of feeling of um, being completely mistreated by people in power, that should be the main takeaway. That I think that would hit everyone, even if you don't walk away with this understanding of nuclear weapons testing, and you, even if you don't care about the veterans or any of these people affected, you'd still at least walk away from this going, I can't believe my government treats me and everybody else like that.
Mm. I do believe, though, the fact that this is coming out now, that belief is more plausible than it might have
Mm.
been even just 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like thinking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
all the things a government will do, all the lies a government, like, just
yeah.
during lockdown, it'd be like everyone should stay at home. And then you find out that they're all out partying, right? It just,
Yeah,
these things have taken away the
yeah,
platform they have to stand and look at you and be like, no, we're doing the same, we're with you. Like,
yeah,
you understand more that, yeah, this isn't true, this isn't
yeah.
reality.
I mean, it's madness even from my perspective. You start looking at obviously the most recent situation in the US, and like you look at that and you're kind of like, this guy is serving himself. Is none of this is in the interest of the the people of the US, it seems, or at least it's a very small subsection of the US that it seems to be in their interest. It's not the majority, and so it's like, what is going on, you know? And that's it. Just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. I don't know, from my perspective.
I think one of the big issues is, right, when you look at things like the Merlin cover up,
Mm,
okay, that's just not one person, that's
no,
systemic. But
yeah, yeah,
whenever those things are dealt with, you have one person step down, right? And they step down and they give the bullshit statement of, I didn't really realize how this would impact people. And blah. It's just like, shut up. You
yeah,
did. But it wasn't just you.
no,
You know what I'm saying?
no,
So
you're
it's just
100%.
like they
Yeah,
get rid of one person, but it doesn't really change anything because all the other people that helped implement are still there, and they've released some things, but is that everything? Like, how many
I mean,
things have they redacted and covered?
well, this is the thing. I think really, I think it goes one step further than that, though. Really, is the fact that a lot of these kind of like current governments don't just like put the blame onto one other person as well. Another tactic is they'll push it back, and they'll go, well, that was the previous government. That was the other party
Mm,
from like, 10 years ago. That was their fault, not ours. And in fact, we're good because we're going to make this better now. It's bullshit, though. It's complete crap because it's like this was well within your power years and years and years ago when your party was still in power then, and it's still, so
mm.
there's no justification for it, but the way they angle it is terrible. It's so self-serving. It's just completely, it's just no like responsibility taken for anything, you
Oh, of
know
course. I mean, you might not have been in power, but you're still in the room to cast a vote, right? And a lot of the time,
yeah,
they still vote with the people in power. Like, I think there was, God, when Hillary Clinton and Tulsi Gabbard were running for president, what, I think 8 years ago, um, there was a debate, and Hillary was making claims about, I think it was gay marriage or something, and how she's for it, and Tulsi Gabbard pulled her up on the fact that she actually voted with, what I mean? Do you like against what she's now saying? And yeah, it just
yeah,
took away everything that she was trying to do. You know what I mean? And that's a problem. But how many people are holding people accountable? right? How
I mean,
in debates, how many people are pulling people up and going, hold on a minute, you say this, but weren't you a part of that? You know?
yeah. I mean, even just for context as well, for maybe people that haven't seen the documentary yet, or know what the Merlin database is about as well. So this Merlin, the Merlin database was had the highest level of security of anything in the UK. It was only accessible by like a few people, and it contained all of these documents and stuff about the British nuclear weapons testing programs, and a lot of kind of intelligence and secrets for the British government about the nuclear program that they have. So Alan, our main guy, and Susie Boniface, a reporter from the Mirror, have basically been campaigning for so long. They've managed to, and what the documentary reveals is about how they accidentally find a blood record that is from this Merlin database that the Ministry of Defence has accidentally put out into the National Archives. And they've come across this, like, hold on a minute, there's all these blood records that are in the Merlin archives that you've got of all these personal soldiers that you should not have. You should have been, these should have been given out. You can't deny people their medical records. So they've used that basically as a way of getting access to the Merlin database. And now the Merlin database is actually being fully declassified and released to the National Archives, which started back in September 2025, and that's going to be going for about a year by the time they fully send everything out. Be very right, like they're saying, is all these things that are coming out that anyone can go and see now. All these things that they've kept secret for decades.
Mm,
You'll see that there's certain things that just should not have been kept secret because they're not remotely, there's no need. And you'll see some things that are really incredibly damning, but you'll also see a lot of things that are redacted
yeah.
because obviously, in the interest of national security and stuff, there is certain things that of course have to be redacted. Like there's not going to be unreasonable kind of thing, but it is like there is certain things. But you'll if that's there's going to be a lot of things come out about that over the next year, I think, that are going to be quite insane, and very revealing of what the UK has been doing for a long time,
Mm,
which is just reflective of all of these countries that have done the testing as well, kind of thing.
oh,
It's just
cool.
one story of many, unfortunately.
Yeah. But I think, as you said, earlier, it'll probably just be pushed onto the former administration, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
we won't, I doubt we will see anyone face jail time
No,
for,
not
the
at all.
lies and behaviors, you
No,
know.
never admit fault, isn't it? That's the tactic, I think,
Mm.
isn't it? It's
Well,
terrible.
it's like, I just remember, um, covering some like documentaries on slavery and things such as that, reparations. Like, no one will actually come out and actually fully admit, because then you open yourself up to having to pay reparations, and no one
Yeah.
wants to have to take that burden of paying. Right? It's There was a film a few years back. I think it was called Blackwater. Mark Ruffalo was in it, and it was basically about
Yeah, it's a good film. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
And you know, after all those years of battling, they won the case. Right? They won the case. The judge awarded generational, and then they just refused to pay it. You know what I mean? Like, the
Crazy.
company just refused to pay it, and nothing happened to them. Right? Like, you would think, if we refuse to pay our council tax, our mortgages, anything, like, we're going to jail,
Mm.
right? But like, an organization like that, a government can just refuse, and what happens? Nothing, really. Right? That's the
Yeah.
big issue.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's all about, that's what I'm kind of getting at with this, really, is it's strength in numbers, isn't it? At the end
Mm.
of the day, you've got to demand more of your government, demand more of these politicians that think they can get away with, anything. And it's just like, really, we're the people in charge. They're meant to serve us. That is the whole concept. And somehow along the line, it seems to have flipped, and there's this huge lack of responsibility or care from the top down, and that needs to change.
Well, I think the one of the big issues is right is it's not like it becomes a generational thing, right? Like
Mm,
you
totally.
think becoming a politician, you're there to serve and get certain things through and do all of this stuff, but it's just like, I mean, it's not going to happen, but I still want a job when the next group come in. So I'm just gonna, walk this line. I'm gonna play it safe. So it's just all job preservation a lot of the times
Yeah.
to ensure that you have this job for life rather than I'm gonna fight this corner, I'm gonna get this fixed, I'm gonna solve this issue. Because if you solve a
Mm,
lot of issues, why are you there? You know what I mean? You're
yeah.
getting rid of your job by solving a lot of things. So a lot of people are just like, let's not
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah.
which is crazy. It's a crazy thing. But I think there's a lot of this, right? Like I knew about a lot of the stuff here, but I've never seen it grouped together like this, right? You
Mm,
watch something about issues in Australia, you watch something about issues in the States, you watch something about the UK, but it's an isolated thing. It's a
mm,
pocket. So it's interesting when you see it like this. You see that domino effect, how everything kind of interlaces
yeah.
and does that, right? So when you're thinking about how to put this together, was
Mm.
it like an easy thing to go, okay, we'll start at the UK, let's go to Australia, let's go to Hawaii? How did you think about that aspect of things?
Yeah, no, it was insanely complicated, honestly. Because, as I said, when we first started, there was an intention, there was a script, there was an idea, and then that
Mm,
changed. And then every single person we met, it kind of adapted every single time, because you're learning something new, you're learning something even more shocking, and then it's just like, oh my god. So it then becomes this thing that, the whole concept of the doc was to take this objective global view, but then bring it down to the individual, so make it really personal, and of all these like first-hand accounts, so that you bring a face to the issue. You say that, like, 10 million people were all affected, and 1 million of them died. It's just incomprehensible numbers. It's just
mm,
insane to think about. Like, no one can comprehend 1 million people. If I ask you to imagine 1 million people right now, you can't. It's so hard to get your head around. You see a stadium full of like 50,000 people, and it's shocking, because it's like, it's just so many people.
yeah.
You times that by 20. It's kind of, you can't comprehend it. But as soon as you put a face to the issue, and you see the emotion of that kind of thing, that's the important bit. And that was the kind of idea here, is that we take this big view, bring it down to the individual in each of these elements, and connect the story. um, the the way of doing that was, in honesty, there was 16 different versions of this documentary, because it was so hard to try and tell a global story like this, that has all this kind of idea. And it was a bit of a nightmare, honestly. It's a really big task to try and connect all of the dots. It's a hard task with any documentaries, to connect all of the dots when you have multiple interviewees, and are trying to tell a simple linear story. But then when you're trying to do that on a global scale with multiple stories and connect them, it becomes it's yeah, it's something else. Um, a lot of post-it notes all over my walls, of trying to, like, moving around and being like, okay, this needs to go here, this goes here, bang, 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 bang. It was just like, yeah, it was it was difficult. I think that, the structure ultimately became, after many different iterations of how we were going to do this, we realized that I never wanted to use a narrator. I've never really liked the concept of using a narrator for this one. It just didn't feel like authentic enough for the approach that we were doing. That I wanted to have that very like authentic feel. So I wanted to shy away from that, but it's like, okay, well then how do we structure this? And Alan became this
Mm,
structure through lab rats and through his understanding of the global issues and how he's connected to it all, and then using this current case within the UK as the backbone of the representation of all of these different communities throughout. So then that became the structure. But even then, once we decided on that, it went through about another 5 different versions to try and make that work, because every time we tried it, just like it was like it just felt so disjointed going from
mm.
one place to another. And then we kind of finally nailed it on the head with this one, and it was like, okay, don't change anything, just leave it. Like, don't touch it. Um, yeah, I had a
Uh,
very nice moment where I got to take all of those post-it notes off my wall, which took about half an hour because so many of them, and that was a very satisfying moment. I gotta be honest.
did you take a picture of the wall?
I did. Yeah. It looks like one of those things where you got an investigator, like with all the strings and the thing is one of them. Yeah.
Oh man. With the whole Merlin thing, was that a
Mm.
bit like the Sochi Russian Olympic scandal in Icarus? Did it happen in time, like as you're shooting, kind of thing?
You know what's really annoying? It happened like so. We did a block in the UK. We did about 6 different blocks, shooting in different areas. We shot in the UK. We went and shot all in the US, 20 different states and Hawaii. We went out to Australia and New Zealand, and then we come back to the UK, and Alan drops this bomb on me about the Merlin database, and I was like, "All right, okay," and then tells me all about this thing about the Gledhill memo and how they found that in the National Archives, and that's kind of unlocked this thing about the Merlin database and the blood scandal, and it was like, Jesus, okay, all right, well now it's trying to like, okay, I'll just pivot onto that then. Um, so yeah, it did come out a little bit. It came out quite far into filming. Um, yeah,
Mm, that like was there a thought of does it have to be included? Like what is that initial thought when you hear something like that?
the initial thought was, "Nah, this is too much, man. I'm not doing this. I'm not covering this bit. Like, forget it. I've got structure. I'm sticking to it." And then you start editing, and you're just like, "Oh, that's really good. It's a really
Mm,
good. Like, we gotta put that in there." Honestly, the hardest part of actually all of this was we had an editor from the very beginning um, that I was really happy with. And then I'm not going to name names or anything at all, but we went out to Australia. We were there for like 2 months and stuff between the UK, Australia, New Zealand and stuff. And we were sending proxies back to him to be able to pull together this assembly. Scripted out this assembly, like, okay, let's pull it together. I get
yeah.
back from 2 months of shooting and he's done nothing. And I'm like, furious was the kind of like nice way of putting it, really. So it then
Mm,
became like, well, now we don't have the money to pay a different editor. We don't have what we need, and so I was like, there's only 2 people who know this footage, or at least I think there's only 2 people. I know there's definitely one, which was me, that know this footage inside out. So it was like, okay, I've got to approach this and I've got to edit this thing. From a financial perspective, we can't do anything else, and so that became me. And really, I'm not an editor. I'm a cinematographer.
mm.
That's like director, cinematographer. That is my thing. So I'm trying to. So then going onto that was a bit of a nightmare. Really, I would always say to myself that the one thing I would never ever do is edit a feature length documentary because it sounds like hell. Um, and then yeah, that became the thing.
Mm. Was there a reason why nothing had been done?
No, there wasn't. There really
Like,
wasn't. That was very, yeah. Um, and there had been money that had been paid, a significant amount of money that had been paid. So it was kind of like this was, yeah, it was a real major bump in the road. Um,
mm,
so yeah, that then led me to editing the thing, which I think ultimately I did have. I will say we couldn't afford anybody, but I did have some really good advice and help from some very good editors, Michaela Bowden and Eamon O'Connor. Eamon, actually, he was one of the editors for Navalny, which won the Oscar. So we had some good advice and some good help. But yeah, it was me, unfortunately, on the computer all day, every day, pulling my hair out, you know.
but that's new skills, man. Like this, I think coming into this project, right? What did you kind of envision being the biggest challenges?
I
Because
was
it
hoping the
sounds like
biggest
it's
challenge.
new for you.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping the biggest challenge was going to be actually capturing it and trying to film it all because it's so much stuff. I didn't really envision that we'd have all the crazy problems that we did. Um, Honestly, this is hands down the hardest thing I've ever done, and
Mm,
not because it's like from a filming perspective, not from the filming perspective, but from like just every hurdle that you could imagine we ended up bumping into. You know, it was just like the one thing that did go really smoothly was the fact that all the things that I'd planned for interviewing people and stuff, we had to pivot a little bit because of people getting ill and all sorts of stuff. But
yeah.
like we managed to make it work, and we got pretty much everyone that we aimed to get.
Oh, that's
There's only a couple in Australia that we couldn't work with in the end, which was unfortunate, just because timing issues and stuff, kind of thing. But it yeah, I mean, yeah, some of the challenges, like there was one situation, you know, the problem is being a bootstrap documentary,
mm,
not having the money to be able to, you know, not having money means a lot of things, but one of the things it does mean is it means you can't move fast. It slows you down to a grinding halt.
yeah.
And to try and move against the tide of other people doing other things, you know, it was very important to me that we represent the issue and we're helping these communities. That was a really big part of what I was doing, and I wanted to take a very moral and ethical like approach with this thing. So one thing we did not do was get any kind of exclusivity for anyone, because they need to campaign and do their own thing, and if they've got other
Yes, of
things that are
course.
going on,
Yeah.
it's really important. Unfortunately, there was another documentary, I'm not going to name, the is a very 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 big broadcaster, who then um, ended up doing a very, very, very similar documentary with a lot more money than me. And we
Mm,
actually had the documentary of that, the director of that documentary reach out to me and ask to license my footage. And I'm like,
mhm.
well, no. What are you, crazy? He's literally following in my footsteps on this journey, kind of thing, and it's insane. And then so then they released the documentary, and then it becomes a, and it's like, okay, well, that's just created a huge setback for us, because then it's like now we're competing, and we're competing with, someone with a hell of a lot more money and resources
Mm,
than what we have. And so it became a bit of a thing. But I would say that throughout all of that, the same subjects that they tried to interview with, that we also had, they tried to sign them up for exclusivity, and
right.
most of them refused because of working with us, which was a very lovely thing to know, that you try and go at these things with like really good intentions, and to approach things in a way that you think is like uh, the most just way of doing it. And then so then when you have someone else come in and do the inverse of that, and they basically go, well, no, because this guy, it kind of
Mm.
it speaks volumes, for me, that like obviously we must have been doing something right, and we must have been treating people with the respect that they deserve, because they stood up for us when it was important.
That's great. That's always great. I mean, it it's not that surprising because you're doing this thing right, with little to no budget, and
Yeah.
you're getting all of these people to help you, right?
Mm.
So it it can't be that you come off as a dick. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, no one's helping you, right? This ain't happening, right? So the
Yeah.
fact that you can put together this team to do this thing, right, that would reflect into the way you approach these conversations. So it kind of
Yeah.
makes sense that these
Yeah.
people would be like in your corner and not
Yeah.
with someone who's kind of, trying to bulldoze their way through, as it were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Any of the bulldozing that was done was, done by me against myself as a like personal battle. You know what I mean? Like it's more
Mm.
so, yeah, internal conflict of trying to, create this thing. I mean, there's always that thing. It's like the film industry is, it's a business. That's the thing. It's
Mm.
like no matter how much, it's an art-driven business. You know, and I think the people like myself, approach it from the perspective of as an artist, as like a cinematographer. I approach things in a way that I want to create something really good. I want to make something that is meaningful, that has impact, that has, that people engage with. But does that make money? Like that's a whole thing, isn't it? Really. So there's always this kind of, and being in this position with this documentary, there is definitely that thing, that internal conflict of like, well, I'm putting a hell of a lot of my own money into this, which by the way is obviously the golden rule: never invest in your own films. But like, forget it, whatever. I mean, it's like, who else is gonna? If no one else is, what are you gonna do? So there's always this like kind of internal conflict of like, well, should I spend this? Like, can I do this? Like, is it kind of a good idea to, from a financial perspective? And obviously there's that thing of like, don't do it, you're crazy, kind of thing. But then there's this moment where it's like, well, this is a really good thing.
Mm.
If you can tell this story and get it out there and you actually make an impact, that's amazing. And so there's this internal conflict between the thing of like, money, I'm screwing myself over, and you're actually going to do something good, you know? And ultimately that always won, as,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm broke. But it's I think that it's funny seeing like the greater scale of the film industry and how it's business and art always kind of in competition, and then it being scaled down into this internal conflict of like, I'm experiencing that on an internal level, and it's just like, oh my god. So all that to say, basically, we're in cinemas. Come buy tickets. Come and see the film, because I need to make some money back at some point, as well as let's get this out there and get it seen.
Well, I think one of the big things with this, though, right, and the fact
Mm,
that you invested in it, because there's a load of people that say they want to do something, right, but
mm,
they're not willing to back themselves, right?
mm,
They're like, the amount of times I've heard people, want to write for like Marvel or DC and be like, I've got a great Batman story, I've got an incredible X-Men story. And
mm,
then they're asked, okay, what else have you done? And it's like, oh,
mm.
well, I mean, nothing, because I've been waiting to do this. And it's just like, well, if you
No one's
haven't
going to give
done
you that
it,
shot.
yeah, like what if you're not willing to back yourself, why should anyone back you? And it shows the commitment, it shows the determination. And so if you're looking for someone to work with and you hear this, like obviously you'd want to work with you, right? Because it's the
Yeah,
integrity, right? Like, oh, okay, I can trust this person, is going to follow through, this person is going to be committed to the end. You know what I mean? So it's just
yeah,
like sometimes the money doesn't come on the first thing, but you will
mm,
see the rewards with everything,
yeah,
with the goodwill it generates for you in your career, and just the chances and opportunities that will come. This is a well done thing, man. This is really,
Yeah.
and it's like, as you said, when you see everything grouped together like this, I mean, it's a tough watch because it's you're seeing the neglect, right? Like we always hearing how like we're meant to stand together and we're meant to do this and blah blah blah, and then you just see the flip side of it, or you see the underbelly, the reality that governments and these entities, you know, the way they treat people. And
Mm.
by putting it all together, you understand, oh, it's not just a UK thing, right? It's not just a US thing.
No.
It's global, right? And there's an impact, there's a resonance to that, right? It sits with you,
Mm.
you know? And I think that's so important, right? You want people to hold this in their heads, to think, to have conversations, because that's the thing that will inspire, like the movements that will inspire people to be like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna go and donate some time to lab rats, I'm gonna go and do this, I'm gonna help with this. And
Mm.
this is the litmus paper that helps ignite that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing that's kind of interesting. We did a private screening in November. So we went to IDFA as part of their Docs for Sale program in October. We signed with a sales agent. We did a private screening in November with journalists, MPs, and just a 100-seat screen for like sold out kind of thing. And it's the thing that got me was the impact that it had was exactly what I wanted, which was
Mm,
for it to hit people in a way that that short documentary hit me 9 years ago. It hit me in this way that was like, this is insane. How do I not know about this?
yeah.
Like, I want to know more and I want to like look into this. And that's exactly the reaction we've had from everyone who's seen this film. No, I'm not even when I. It sounds like an exaggeration when I say everyone that's seen this film. I mean everyone that's seen this film. It has been an incredible reaction of what we've had so far, um, and it's really it is quite heartwarming, honestly, and it does make it feel like the last 3 years and all the struggles have actually really been worth it. Um, I will say to your point as well. I think something for anyone that is watching stuff as well. I really do. The kind of ethos I've lived on for a long time is the fact that the best thing you can invest into is yourself.
Mm,
If I ever I do a job as a cinematographer, if I have any spare income from these jobs and stuff, it's kind of like, well, I can either save that, put it towards whatever kind of thing. The thing I've done for the last 14 years is always investing it back into myself, my projects, stuff that will help me because I can trust me. I can't, I'm going to stick it into a Tesla stock or some, kind of rubbish. It's like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Um, it's not, you can't trust anything like that as much as you can trust yourself. And I had this kind of very strange realization a little while before this doc that I realized that the projects that have served me out of all the things that I've shot for all these different directors and production companies and stuff, of all shapes and sizes, the things that have served me best as the things that have got me more work and that have ultimately earned me more money and more recognition are all of the things that I've made
mm,
more so than that anybody else has made. Even as a cinematographer, the things that I have directed and shot have got me more work and recognition than anything else I've shot for anybody else.
mm,
Which is, and for whatever reason that may be, I don't know. But like that kind of says to me that there's something there in the fact that, you know, I don't know, I should shoot more of my own stuff. I don't know. Like, I
mm.
don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So,
that makes sense, right? Because when you're doing something as part of something, right? It's like, I mean, that's done really well. How much help did they get? Right? Like how
mm,
much in just them and how much was a collaboration and all of this. But when you see something that you have done solely you, right, you understand that, okay, so you planned it out, right? You put together the budget, you strategized, you did all of this. This is all you. This is your vision, right? So it's just like when something like that, and you can see it stands on it, right? It works. It's production wise, it's great, right? You go, okay, yes, let's bring that, because I can see that that will bring a lot to what we're doing here. I think kind of that thing. It's like you can look at, if you were like the cinematographer on Oppenheimer or something, you'd be like, okay, that was good, right? Like motherfucker did a good job. But it is kind of like that person's part of that machine. And there's certain directors and cinematographers and things that are more collaborative than others, and you know what I mean? So it's just like when you can see someone, the sole thing that they did on their own, right? It just carries a little bit more weight,
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah. It's an interesting one.
But no, this was definitely impactful, man. Did you think about talking to MPs and oh my god, what are those people? Fuck.
Like House of Lords.
Oh god, no. Jesus Christ. It's like the people that they get to kind of badger people, and I forget what it's called.
Oh, lobbyists.
Yes, fucking hell, yes, lobbyists. I'm glad you understood, man.
I got you. Yeah, lobbyists. So no lobbyists, but we did. So from that private screening in November, with some of the MPs that were there, we then get sponsored by Rebecca Long Bailey and Sir John Hayes to have a parliamentary screening in January. So we did that January 13th. We went to Parliament and we screened the documentary to a bunch of MPs, and we ended up getting cross-party support from Labour, Conservative, Green Party, and the Lib Dems, which is like, to get all of them to agree on something is obviously like, you must be doing something right, But I mean, how can you not agree, man? How can you not agree? It's like, come on. It's yeah. So I mean, yeah. So that was quite a beneficial thing, and I think there is. I do know from working with Alan and stuff that there is a lot of news that will be coming out soon. That is some fantastic movement forward for the veterans and stuff in the UK, and that will ultimately have a knock-on effect for all of these communities, which is fantastic.
Okay, great. Any thoughts of trying to do a similar thing in, the US, Australia, and other places?
We're gonna be screening in. I've actually got a meeting that I've got to go to in a minute. Actually, I've got a meeting that potentially doing some screenings in the US. So that's great. We'll definitely be screening at limited locations, but hopefully we can make that a little bit more widespread. So let's see how that goes. And then we will be taking it back to Australia as well. It's kind of an important thing of one of the things we did for this, like I was saying about approaching this from like an ethical and like moral standpoint, was there's a thing called the Nuclear Truth Protocols, which is a lot of these communities have been filmed with before, and a lot of them have been taken advantage of and just kind of cast aside after the thing's been done. So we follow this very carefully to make sure that we're including the communities before and after in the creation of the film, and that there is benefit both ways. And the ethos of what we kind of did with this was always that ultimately we can't really make a big difference, but what we can do is get eyes on the subject. So it is our plan to try and get as many eyes on this as possible, get this as widespread seen as possible, so that then these organizations can then use that to boost their initiatives. We can't do the initiatives, but we can bring attention to it. So that's the concept.
Tremendous, man. No, that's great. Awesome. So how can people watch the doc?
Yeah, so Oh, we're gonna plug this bit. Yeah, is this the um so yeah, so we got so we are going into UK cinemas this starting from March 12th. March 12th is our world premiere at Leicester Square at the Prince Charles Cinema, the amazing Prince Charles Cinema. So that's going to be great. 6 p.m. on the 12th.
Do you know if
And
you're up or downstairs?
we're in the main screen. We're in the main screen. Screen
Okay,
one, 300 seats.
awesome.
Yeah. So there's a nice little. I'm really looking forward to that, man. That's going to be fantastic. Yeah, so that's next week on the 12th of March, and tickets are available at atomicblood.com for all of the screenings, but and the premiere as well. The premiere's getting tight on tickets now, so yeah, atomicblood.com. Be quick.
Okie dokie. And how can people follow like everything that's happening and all of that?
Yep. All of our socials, everything is at atomicblood.com. Go there. We've got all the screenings, all our socials, all the thing. And if you want to follow me, mostly it's Instagram at Everitt-Lock, Everitlock.
Outstanding. If someone wants to, you know, like a action group or something, you know, a local council, you know, they want to, you know, someone from Capitol Hill, maybe they want to show the documentary, who would they get in contact with? How would they approach?
They can approach me. We can have a chat, and then it'll be between me and my producer and stuff. And if anyone wants to get more involved in the campaign as well, we'd be happy to put you in touch with Alan and the Lab Rats. And if it's not in the UK, if it's in the US or Australia, then equally we can do get you in contact with the right organisations there as well. We have actually, the film has been endorsed by a bunch of NGOs, including ICANN, that won the Nobel Peace Prize back in 2017. So
Nice.
they're a big global organization that has a lot of different organizations within 110 different countries. I think it's like 700 organizations within 110 countries. You know? So yeah, pretty big, really good.
Outstanding, man. Oh, this is great, man. Like, people, as always, all the information will be on the webpage for this episode. So make sure that you go check it out. It's poignant, it's heavy, it's important. So go watch the documentary, go support Daniel and his peoples, because, you know, it matters. It really does. Like, with all the stuff Alan has said, like that's coming and everything like that, are you thinking about filming it like for a follow-up or something like that?
I'm done, man. I need to do a comedy or something, dude. Like, nah. My next thing is going to be a comedy. It's going to be a horror. It's going to be something else, man. No. No, we're going to be supporting Alan for forever. There's no question about that. And on like you know, from a social media standpoint, we'll certainly help him out with anything like that kind of thing as well. Like, you know, but from a film perspective or something, I think this has given the message that I wanted to put out there. And yeah, we'll see what it does. Really, that's the idea.
Well, you're definitely ready for whatever, all the challenges and everything that you face with this. Hey, the next thing is gonna be a breeze, man.
Piece of cake, mate. Piece of cake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, cheers,
Big
Kevin.
up Tom for putting this together. So yeah, man, thank you so much, and I hope everything goes really well. I mean, I am sure it is, because as I said, it's a well done thing, man. Like, it
No, I
is
appreciate it.
really impactful, right? You've done a really, really good job for your debut documentary. You know what I mean? So, hey, congratulations, and I look forward to seeing what you do next.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Appreciate that, man.
No worries, man. All right. You have a
Thanks.
good rest of your day.
Cheers, man. And you. We'll see you around.
Bye.